Hello everyone, it's time for story time, and obviously we're not at school, so I didn't have our library to look at. So I've just got a few children's books at home, and quite a few of them are ones that I had when I was little. This was one of my favourites that my mum used to read to me, and it's a book of princess stories, and they're all by Sally Gardner. I've chosen my favourite one in this book today, and it's called The Princess and the Pea. Once upon a time there lived a prince who wished very much to marry a real princess. His search for a bride took him around the world and back again, which is a very long way indeed. He met lots of girls who called themselves princesses. Pretty ones, plain ones, vain ones, happy ones, sad ones, and mad ones. But there was always something not quite right. It was a problem. How was he to know if they were a real princess? At last he gave up and went home, feeling very upset. The king and the queen agreed with their son. There was no point in marrying a girl who was not a real princess. What was to be done? Then, one wild and stormy night, a princess was being driven home from a party when her car went too fast around a corner and she was thrown into a ditch. The chauffeur did not see what had happened and drove on, leaving the princess all alone. "Well, this is a pickle," said the princess, picking herself up. "No point staying here. I'd better try and find some shelter." She stumbled through the howling gale and pouring rain until she came to a palace. "There must be someone here who can help me," the princess said to herself. So she rang the bell and was brought before the king and the queen. She looked a terrible mess. Her hair was dripping wet, her dress was torn, her shoes were all muddy, and she had lost her crown. The king and queen were surprised that the girl called herself a princess, but they were kind enough to invite her to stay. She could not very well go out like that again on a night like this. After she had had a bath and been given some clean clothes, the princess was brought to the great hall for supper. The prince thought she looked very nice, but what was the point in falling in love when she might not be a real princess? The queen had an idea. "Too many girls these days," she said, "pretend to be princesses. There is only one way of knowing for certain if this is a real princess." So the queen went into the girl's bedroom and placed one tiny pea under the mattress. Then she ordered 20 more mattresses to be put on top. She was still not sure if there were enough mattresses, so she ordered another 20 to be put on top of them. 20 and 20, 40 mattresses. Can you see? All piled on top. When the princess went to bed, she needed a ladder to climb to the top of all those mattresses. But because she was a guest, she couldn't very well ask why there were so many, when just one would have done nicely. The bed, for all its 41 mattresses, was very uncomfortable. The princess was sure the mattress was filled with rocks instead of feathers. In the morning, the king and queen asked her how she had slept. "I couldn't sleep at all, Your Majesty," said the princess. "The bed was so lumpy and bumpy that I bruised black and blue all over." The king and queen were delighted. There could be no doubt that this was a real princess, for only a real princess is tender enough to feel one tiny pea through so many mattresses. The prince was keen to marry her. The princess was happy to marry him too, for it is not easy to find a real prince these days. Real princes are quite rare. You can see that this prince and princess were made for each other. In no time at all they were married, and they lived happily ever after. Now, isn't that a tender-hearted tale? As for the pea, it was put in a museum. Or was it soup? Do you know? I quite forget. And that's the end.